Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. What the hell? I muttered, staring at the empty spot in my driveway where my truck should have been. For a moment, I wondered if I was losing my mind. Had I parked it somewhere else and forgotten? No, I distinctly remembered pulling into my driveway last night after work. My name's Mike, and I've lived in the Sunnyside Estates neighborhood for about 3 years now. It's a nice enough place. Manicured lawns, tidy houses, the whole suburban dream. But like any place with a homeowners association, it comes with its share of rules and occasional headaches. I fumbled for my phone, ready to call the police and report my truck stolen, when I noticed a small piece of paper fluttering on my front porch. Frowning, I walked over and picked it up. It was a notice from the homeowner association, informing me that my vehicle had been towed due to a violation of community guidelines. "You've got to be kidding me," I growled, reading the notice again. According to this slip of paper, my truck had been towed because it was an unauthorized commercial vehicle parked in a residential area. Now, let me be clear, my truck isn't some massive semi or anything like that. It's just a regular pickup truck that I use for work. I'm a contractor, and I need it to haul tools and materials to job sites. It's never been a problem before, and there was nothing in the homeowner association rules about not being able to park work vehicles in your own driveway. I stormed back into the house, my blood boiling. My wife, Sarah, was just coming downstairs, yawning and rubbing her eyes. "Mike, what's wrong?" she asked, noticing my agitated state. I thrust the notice at her. "The homeowner association towed my truck. They're saying it's an unauthorized commercial vehicle or some bullcrap like that." Sarah's eyes widened as she read the notice. "But, that's ridiculous. It's just your work truck. We've had it parked here since we moved in." "Exactly," I said, running a hand through my hair in frustration. "I'm going to call them right now and get this sorted out." I pulled out my phone and dialed the number for the homeowner association office. After a few rings, a chipper voice answered, "Sunnyside Estates Homeowner Association. This is Karen speaking. How may I help you?" "Yes, hello," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "This is Mike Johnson from 1542 Maple Street. I just found out that my truck was towed from my driveway last night, and I'd like to know why." There was a pause, and I could hear the clacking of a keyboard. "Ah, yes, Mr. Johnson. It seems your vehicle was in violation of our community guidelines regarding commercial vehicles." I took a deep breath. I've read the guidelines, and there's nothing in there about not being able to park a work truck in your own driveway. I've been doing it for 3 years without any issues. "Well, Mr. Johnson," Karen's voice took on a condescending tone that made my teeth clench. "The board recently voted to update our policies regarding commercial vehicles. All residents were notified via email last month." I frowned, trying to recall any such email. I never received any notification about this. And even if I had, you can't just tow someone's vehicle without warning. That's illegal. "I assure you, Mr. Johnson, we followed all proper procedures," Karen replied, her voice growing frosty. "If you'd like to dispute this, you're welcome to bring it up at the next board meeting. Now, if you want to retrieve your vehicle, you'll need to pay the towing fee and sign an agreement to comply with our updated policies." "This is ridiculous," I snapped. "I'm not paying any fees for your mistake, and I'm certainly not signing anything. Where's my truck?" Karen sighed as if I was being particularly difficult. "Your vehicle is at Speedy's Towing on 5th Street. But I must warn you, Mr. Johnson, if you bring the vehicle back without complying with our policies, we'll be forced to take further action." "We'll see about that," I growled, hanging up the phone. Sarah had been listening to my side of the conversation, her expression growing more concerned by the minute. "What are we going to do, Mike?" I grabbed my keys and wallet. "First, I'm going to get my truck back. Then, I'm going to fight this. They can't just make up rules and enforce them without proper notice. This is our property, for crying out loud." Sarah nodded, her jaw set in determination. "You're right. This isn't fair. Do you want me to come with you?" I shook my head. "No, you stay here. I'll handle this. But could you do me a favor and check our emails? See if you can find any notification about this new policy." "Of course," Sarah said, already heading to our home office. "I'll call you if I find anything." I headed out, borrowing Sarah's car to drive to Speedy's Towing. The whole way there, my mind was racing. How could they do this? We'd never had any problems before. Sure, there had been the occasional notice about lawn care or trash cans left out too long, but nothing like this. When I arrived at Speedy's, I was greeted by a burly man with a grease-stained shirt. His name tag read Bob. "Can I help you?" he asked, eyeing me warily. "Yeah, my truck was towed last night from Sunnyside Estates. I'm here to get it back," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. It wasn't this guy's fault after all. Bob nodded and started tapping at his computer. Name? Mike Johnson?" After a few more clicks, he looked up at me. "All right, I've got it here. That'll be $250 for the tow and overnight storage." I felt my blood pressure rising again. Look, this tow was a mistake. The homeowner association had no right to have my truck removed from my own property. I'm not paying for their error. Bob shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "Sorry, man. I don't make the rules. We just do what we're told. If you've got a problem with the tow, You need to take it up with whoever authorized it. I can't release the vehicle without payment. I closed my eyes, counted to 10, and then pulled out my credit card. As much as I hated it, I needed my truck for work. I couldn't afford to leave it here while I fought with the homeowner association. Fine, I said through gritted teeth, but I want a detailed receipt, and I want to know who exactly authorized this tow. Bob nodded, seemingly relieved that I wasn't going to make a scene. He processed my payment and handed me a receipt, along with a copy of the tow authorization. The name at the bottom made my eyes narrow. Gerald Thompson, Homeowner Association President. I thanked Bob, probably a bit more curtly than he deserved, and went to retrieve my truck. As I climbed into the familiar driver's seat, I felt a mix of relief and renewed anger. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. On the drive home, I called Sarah. She picked up on the first ring. Mike, did you get the truck? Yeah, I got it, I said, still seething. Had to pay $250 though. Any luck with those emails? Sarah sighed. I've gone through everything from the past 3 months. There's nothing, Mike. No notification about any policy changes regarding vehicles. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. That's what I thought. They're trying to pull a fast one on us. So what do we do now? Sarah asked. I thought for a moment. I'm going to document everything. Take pictures of the truck in our driveway. Gather all our homeowner association documents. Everything. Then, I think we need to talk to a lawyer. A lawyer? Sarah sounded surprised. Are you sure that's necessary? Sarah, they illegally towed our vehicle from our own property. They're threatening further action if we don't comply with rules we were never informed of. Yeah, I think it's time to get a lawyer involved. There was a pause. Then Sarah said, You're right. This isn't just about the money. It's about them overstepping their bounds. Do you want me to start looking for lawyers? That'd be great, I said, feeling a surge of love for my supportive wife. Look for someone who specializes in property law or homeowner association disputes. When I got home, Sarah and I spent the rest of the day gathering evidence. We took multiple photos of my truck parked in our driveway, making sure to capture the house number in the background. We dug out all our homeowner association documents, including the original agreement we'd signed when we bought the house. Sarah even went through our bank statements, showing that we'd consistently paid our homeowner association dues on time. The next day, I called in sick to work. I couldn't risk having my truck towed again while I was at a job site. Sarah had found a lawyer who seemed promising, a woman named Lisa Rodriguez who had experience dealing with homeowner association disputes. We managed to get an appointment with her that afternoon. As we sat in her office, surrounded by law books and framed diplomas, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe we could fight this after all. Lisa listened attentively as we explained the situation, occasionally jotting down notes. When we finished, she leaned back in her chair, a thoughtful expression on her face. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, based on what you've told me, it seems the homeowner association has indeed overstepped its bounds, she said. Towing a vehicle from private property without proper notice or cause is illegal in this state. Moreover, their threat of further action if you don't comply with rules you were never properly informed of could be construed as harassment. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. So we have a case? Lisa nodded. I believe so. We can file a lawsuit against the homeowner association for illegal towing and harassment. We'll seek compensation for the towing fees, any lost wages due to this incident, and damages for the stress and inconvenience caused. Sarah squeezed my hand. What about their threats of further action? Can they really tow Mike's truck again? Absolutely not, Lisa said firmly. I'll draft a cease and desist letter immediately, informing them that any further attempts to tow your vehicle or enforce this supposed new policy will result in additional legal action. We spent the next hour going over the details of our case and discussing strategy. By the time we left Lisa's office, I felt more confident than I had in days. We had a plan, and we were going to fight back. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal activity. Lisa sent the cease and desist letter to the Homeowner Association Board, and we filed our lawsuit. The response from the Homeowner Association was swift and predictable. They denied any wrongdoing and claimed they had followed all proper procedures. But we had evidence on our side. Not only could we prove that we'd never received notification of the policy change, but Lisa had also discovered that the board hadn't followed proper protocol in implementing new rules. According to the Homeowner Association's own bylaws, any significant policy changes required a community-wide vote, which had never taken place. As the case progressed, we started hearing from other neighbors who had similar experiences. It turned out we weren't the only ones who'd had vehicles towed or received threats from the Homeowner Association. Lisa suggested we consider turning it into a class action lawsuit, but Sarah and I decided to stick with our individual case for now. The day of our court hearing arrived, and I felt a mix of nervousness and determination as we walked into the courthouse. Our case was set to be heard by Judge Martinez, who had a reputation for being fair but no nonsense. As we took our seats, I noticed Gerald Thompson, the Homeowner Association president, sitting on the other side of the courtroom with the Homeowner Association's lawyer. He caught my eye and gave me a smug smile that made my blood boil. I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. Judge Martinez called the court to order, and the proceedings began. The homeowner association's lawyer went first, painting a picture of a community just trying to maintain its standards and property values. He argued that the policy change was necessary and that we had been properly notified. When it was our turn, Lisa methodically dismantled their arguments. She presented our evidence: the lack of email notification, the photos of my truck that had been parked in our driveway for years without issue, the homeowner association bylaws that required a community vote for major policy changes. Your Honor, Lisa said, her voice clear and confident, the actions of the Sunnyside Estates Homeowner Association go beyond a simple misunderstanding or procedural error. This is a clear case of overreach and abuse of power. They illegally towed Mr. Johnson's vehicle from his own property, causing him financial loss and significant stress. Furthermore, their continued threats of action against my clients amount to harassment. I watched as Judge Martinez listened intently, her expression giving nothing away. When both sides had presented their cases, she called for a short recess to review the evidence. Those 15 minutes felt like an eternity. Sarah and I sat in tense silence, both lost in our own thoughts. When we were called back into the courtroom, my heart was pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. Judge Martinez looked at both parties before speaking. Having reviewed the evidence presented, I'm ready to make my ruling, she said. In the case of Johnson versus Sunnyside Estates Homeowners Association, I find in favor of the plaintiff. I felt Sarah's hand tighten around mine as the judge continued. The homeowner association's actions in towing Mr. Johnson's vehicle without proper notification or cause were illegal and a violation of his property rights. Furthermore, their subsequent threats constitute harassment. The homeowner association is ordered to pay $5,000 in damages to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, covering the towing fees, lost wages, and compensation for stress and inconvenience caused. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. We'd won? But Judge Martinez wasn't finished. Additionally, I'm ordering the Sunnyside Estates Homeowner Association to immediately cease enforcement of this unauthorized policy change. Any future policy changes must strictly adhere to the procedures outlined in the Homeowner Association bylaws, including community-wide voting where applicable. Failure to comply with this order will result in further legal consequences. She turned her gaze directly to Gerald Thompson, who was now looking decidedly less smug. Mr. Thompson, as president of the Homeowner Association, I strongly suggest you review your organization's practices. This court takes a dim view of those who abuse their authority, no matter how small that authority might be. With a final bang of her gavel, the case was closed. We'd won? The relief and joy I felt in that moment were indescribable. Sarah hugged me tightly, and I could see Lisa smiling broadly. As we left the courthouse, several of our neighbors who had come to support us offered their congratulations. It felt good to know we had the community behind us. Gerald Thompson tried to approach us, probably to offer some sort of apology or explanation, but Lisa smoothly intercepted him. Mr. Thompson, any further communication with my clients should go through me, she said firmly. The ride home was jubilant. Sarah and I couldn't stop talking about the case, reliving every moment of the judge's ruling. I still can't believe we won, Sarah said, shaking her head in amazement. I grinned. Believe it, believe it. We stood up for what was right, and justice prevailed. When we got home, I parked my truck in the driveway with a newfound sense of satisfaction. It wasn't just a vehicle anymore, it was a symbol of our victory against injustice. Over the next few weeks, things changed in Sunnyside Estates. Gerald Thompson resigned from the Homeowner Association Board, and a special election was held to vote in new leadership. The new board, led by our neighbor Tom Chen, promised greater transparency and adherence to proper procedures. As for Sarah and I, we considered moving after all the drama, but ultimately decided to stay. This was our home, and we'd fought hard for our right to live here on our own terms. Plus, we felt a responsibility to stay involved and ensure that what happened to us didn't happen to anyone else. One sunny Saturday, about a month after the court case, I was washing my truck in the driveway when Tom Chen walked over. "Hey Mike," he said, offering a friendly wave. "How's it going?" I smiled, putting down my sponge. "Can't complain, Tom. How's life as the new Homeowner Association president treating you?" Tom chuckled. "It's been an eye-opener, that's for sure. But we're making progress. I actually wanted to thank you." I raised an eyebrow. "Thank me? For what?" "For standing up to the old board," Tom said seriously. "What you and Sarah did. It was a wake-up call for a lot of us. It made us realize we need to be more involved, to make sure our community is run fairly and transparently. You guys inspired some real positive change around here." I felt a warmth spread through my chest at his words. "Well, I appreciate that, Tom. We just did what we thought was right." Tom nodded. "And that's exactly what we need more of. Listen, we're having a community barbecue next weekend to introduce the new board and discuss some ideas for improving the neighborhood. We'd love it if you and Sarah could come. Your input would be really valuable." I smiled, genuinely touched by the invitation. "We'll be there, Tom. Thanks for the invite." As Tom walked away, I turned back to my truck, running my hand along its freshly washed side. Who would have thought that this vehicle, which had caused so much trouble, would end up being the catalyst for positive change in our community. That evening, as Sarah and I sat on our front porch enjoying the sunset, I couldn't help but reflect on everything that had happened. "You know," I said, taking a sip of my beer, "as stressful as this whole ordeal was, I'm kinda glad it happened." Sarah looked at me quizzically. "Really? You're glad our truck got towed and we had to go to court?" I chuckled. "Well, not exactly. But think about it. If none of this had happened, we'd still be living under that corrupt homeowner association board. The neighbors would still be afraid to park their work vehicles in their own driveways. Sometimes it takes someone standing up and saying enough is enough to make things better." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "I see what you mean. It's like that quote, 'The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.'" "Exactly," I agreed. "And now, we have a chance to help shape the future of our community. Make it a place where the homeowner association works for the residents, not against them." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. The peaceful moment was interrupted by the rumble of a truck engine. Our neighbor across the street, Jim, was pulling into his driveway in his landscaping truck. Before, Jim had always parked his work truck on the street, afraid of running afoul of the homeowner association. But now, he drove right up his driveway without hesitation. As he got out, he saw us on our porch and gave a friendly wave. "Evening, Mike." Sarah, he called out. "Beautiful night, isn't it?" "Sure is, Jim," I called back. "That truck looks mighty fine in your driveway." Jim grinned. "Feels good to park it where it belongs. All thanks to you folks." As Jim headed inside, Sarah squeezed my hand. "You know, I think you're right," she said softly. "As tough as it was, I'm glad we fought back. We didn't just win for ourselves, we won for everyone in Sunnyside Estates." I nodded, feeling a sense of pride and contentment wash over me. "We sure did, honey. We sure did." The next week flew by, and before we knew it, it was time for the community barbecue. Sarah and I walked hand in hand to the neighborhood park, where the event was being held. The smell of grilling burgers and hot dogs filled the air, and the sound of children laughing and playing on the nearby playground created a festive atmosphere. As we approached, I saw Tom Chen standing near the grill, flipping burgers. He spotted us and waved us over. "Mike, Sarah, glad you could make it," he said warmly. "Grab a plate and help yourselves. We'll be starting the meeting in about half an hour." We mingled with our neighbors, many of whom came up to thank us for taking a stand against the old homeowner association board. It was a bit overwhelming, to be honest. We hadn't done it for recognition or praise, we just wanted to right a wrong. But it was heartening to see how our actions had positively impacted the community. When it was time for the meeting to start, Tom called everyone to attention. The crowd gathered around, balancing paper plates of food and drinks as they found places to sit on the grass or at picnic tables. "First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out today," Tom began. "As your new homeowner association board, we're committed to transparency and community involvement. That's why we wanted to have this informal gathering, to meet face to face with all of you and hear your ideas and concerns." He went on to introduce the other new board members and outline some initial plans for the community. These included a review of all existing homeowner association rules to ensure they were fair and necessary, a new system for communicating important information to residents, and a commitment to hold regular town hall-style meetings. "But most importantly," Tom said, "we want to hear from you. What changes would you like to see in Sunnyside Estates? How can we make this an even better place to live?" For the next hour, neighbors stood up one by one to share their thoughts and ideas. Some suggested improvements to the community spaces, like updating the playground equipment or adding a community garden. Others proposed changes to homeowner association policies, like more flexible rules for home improvements or a fairer system for dealing with violations. Throughout it all, I was struck by the positive energy in the air. People were engaged, offering constructive ideas instead of just complaints. It felt like a community coming together, rather than one divided by petty rules and power struggles. Towards the end of the meeting, Tom turned to Sarah and me. "Mike, Sarah, would you like to say a few words? After all, your stand against the old board was a big part of why we're all here today." I hesitated, not used to public speaking, but Sarah gave me an encouraging nod. Taking a deep breath, I stood up. "Thanks, Tom," I began, looking out at the faces of our neighbors. "You know, when we decided to fight the homeowner association's illegal towing of our truck, we weren't thinking about changing the whole system. We were just trying to stand up for what was right." I paused, gathering my thoughts. But through that process, we realized something important. An homeowner association shouldn't be about controlling people or enforcing arbitrary rules. It should be about making our community a better place to live. It should work for us, not against us. Heads nodded in agreement around the gathering. "What I see here today," I continued, gesturing to the crowd, "is the real power of a community. When we come together, share our ideas, and work towards common goals, there's nothing we can't achieve. So let's keep this momentum going. Let's build the kind of neighborhood we all want to live in. One where we look out for each other, where we value fairness and transparency, and where everyone has a voice." As I sat down to applause, Sarah squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with pride. The meeting wrapped up shortly after, with Tom thanking everyone for their participation and promising to follow up on the ideas shared. As people began to disperse, many stopped by to chat with Sarah and me, sharing their own homeowner association stories or just expressing their support. As we walked home in the fading evening light, Sarah linked her arm through mine. "You know," she said, "when we bought this house, I never imagined we'd end up leading a community revolution." I laughed. "Me neither. But I'm glad we did. It feels good to make a difference." She nodded. "It really does? And just think, all of this started because they towed your truck." "Well," I said with a grin, "I guess sometimes good things come in unexpected packages. Or unexpected tow trucks in our case." We both chuckled at that, the sound of our laughter floating up into the starry night sky. As we reached our house, I glanced at my truck sitting in the driveway. It was just a vehicle, yes, but it had become so much more. A symbol of standing up for what's right, of community coming together, of positive change. I knew there would still be challenges ahead. Running an homeowner association, even with the best intentions, isn't always easy. But I felt optimistic about the future of Sunnyside Estates. We had laid the groundwork for a more fair, transparent, and community-focused neighborhood. As we stepped onto our porch, I took one last look around the quiet street. Houses with porch lights glowing, a mix of personal and work vehicles in driveways, trees rustling gently in the evening breeze. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. And now, more than ever, it felt like a place where we truly belonged. Sarah unlocked the front door and stepped inside. I lingered for a moment, breathing in the night air and feeling a deep sense of contentment. Then, with a smile, I followed her into our home, ready for whatever new adventures our little corner of the world might bring. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.